All right, guys, welcome to the sixth round podcast with myself, Izzy, and MaddDogg Miller. And of course, UFC 146 was last night. And right now, since my video didn't upload because Nate was scared that my predictions were going to be better than his, um,
And they were.
yeah, whatever. Basically, we're going to do this post fight video so that we can break down the fights and give our thoughts on the event. So let's start with the first fight: Mike Brown versus Pineda. Who did you have, and did you do good or not, Mad?
I had Mike Brown, and yes, I did. I came out victorious with the decision that I thought would happen. I thought it was finished by Uzi due to Brown's wrestling. I think he also tired early. I predicted in my podcast that Brown would gas out in the third round, but I thought he would survive the third round and win the decision, and pretty much play out exactly how I predicted. So it was actually a really good fight for me.
Yeah, I actually had Pineda winning just because. I mean, I saw a lot of tape on Pineda, and I was really impressed with his performances, and a lot of other people, got a lot of other gamblers actually, put money on the underdog. But Mike Brown came out impressive, and as we just know now, actually this was Mike Brown's last fight. He retired, so it was a good fight for him to go out.
Yeah, it was. It was a good performance.
All right, then the next fight on the card, Kingsbury versus Glover. Of course, we all know that I had Kyle and MaddDogg.
I had Glover.
Yeah, luckily picked Glover. A lot of people.
Well, not luckily. That was. I knew that was coming. I knew he trained at the pit with Chuck Liddell. I knew that he had a hard time getting in with his visa for the fight in the U.S. It wasn't lack of talent; it was not his ability to get in. And so I knew he was a big talent. I wasn't aware of how big until I actually saw the fight. I've only seen a couple of clips, never actually saw a fight, and I was very impressed. I'm looking forward to seeing him fight again.
Yeah, actually, I just rewatched every single fight before we started this thing, and Glover looked amazing. I'm not even gonna joke. Originally, right when this fight was announced, I actually picked Glover to win by TKO, but he came out very strong and won by arm triangle after Kyle was on the ground. Basically, really didn't know what to do. He didn't know whether to give up his back or stay in in mount. So he pushed off, and Glover took advantage and caught him in that arm triangle. So
Dominant in every position.
yeah, it was just a crazy fight. Another crazy fight: Dan Hardy versus Dwayne Ludwig. Of course, Dan Hardy, 4-fight losing streak, and Dwayne Ludwig, always a good striker. But Dan made a big statement in this one. I had Dwayne. Who'd you have, man?
I had Hardy. I
Yeah,
picked Hardy. I knew I'd pick Hardy for this fight because he just trained through a fish camp to suffering training with Frank Mir. And I actually predicted him to win by submission. I thought his submission game would have improved a lot, but he still looked good. I thought Dwayne was winning the fight for most of it, being the better striker. He gets off sooner, but Dan caught him with the big one when it mattered. He got the W.
yeah. After the fight, Dan talked about how he knew Dwayne's basically how his stand up was, and he said that he was expecting him to drop his right hand so that he could land that left hook, and that's exactly what happened. So moving on to the next one, Paul Sass and Jacob Volkman. Now, MaddDogg, who did you have in this fight?
You finally get a win one. I'll let you have one. I had Volkman.
Yes, Volkman. Honestly, Volkman is the best blanket in MMA. This guy just dominates everybody with his wrestling, and a lot of people, including yourself, said that he would be able to dominate Paul Saz. But on the weigh-ins, Saz was really big, and I was really happy with my pick. So
I thought the same thing. That was the one pick that the weigh-ins influenced for me that I almost changed. I didn't change any of my picks following the weigh-in, but if I had to change one, it would have been that. That was at least a weight class and a half bigger than Volkman. I agree.
yeah, and I mean, in the commentary, Joe Rogan did a very good job on this particular fight, talking about how Jacob had his arms around Sass's lower body, and basically you don't want to do that with Sass. You put your hands on the mat, and this guy's gonna catch you in anything. He sweeped with the omoplata, and then just went for the triangle later on in the fight.
Well, I also apologize on Twitter because I really thought Volkman would keep like a side control or work half guard. I really didn't think he'd just sit there in the guard. I thought if he got caught in there, he'd stand up and work for another takedown. I didn't see him fighting like that, going right where his enemy's game was.
Yeah.
But, that's how it goes.
Yeah, well, Jacob's one of those guys that he's really hard headed. He doesn't care about his opponent. He just, wants to execute his game plan, and that's all he cares about. So now Jason Miller versus CB Dollaway again. Again, this fight I am correct because I picked CB and MaddDogg had.
Miller, I picked Miller.
Yeah, I know. See, if you listen to me more often, you might get some fights right. But
still 3 to your 2 right now.
All right, so previously I have never, for the record, I said this on Twitter a few times, I've never picked CB to win a fight. But after Jason Miller's last performance, just the way that he carries himself as a fighter with all the talk and how he's overconfident, maybe for some fighters that works, but for Jason, basically I've learned that whatever he says, just go with the opposite. So yeah, I picked CB to win by unanimous decision, and I didn't watch the fight. I was trying to fumble after work and everything, but from the critics, it was apparently a very boring fight.
Well, it had its moments. Miller came in with a knee brace on, and eventually the wrap popped out. He was wrapped, and you could tell it because really, I don't think CB beat Miller. I think Miller beat Miller that day
Mm-hmm.
because he had him hurt once in the first round, severely in the second round. In the second round, he spun him around with the right hook, and he followed up after him, and his knee was buckling. He couldn't quite keep up. You could tell something was wrong with his leg. But if he was acting, who knows? He can take this fight serious. Like I said, Miller beat Miller. If he had taken his time, he could have easily knocked him out in 2 or 3 opportunities. But he rushed it. He was showboating. The whole fight he was showboating until the third round. Even the third round, he shook his head when CB had his back. But yeah, Miller beat Miller that day, and he won't be in the UFC again. So I regret that pick. I thought Miller would take it serious.
Yeah, we actually it was just after the fight. Dana talked about how Mayhem did a few inappropriate things backstage, and he got released shortly after. And of course, before the fight even happened, Miller said, "If I can't beat CB, I shouldn't even be inside the octagon." So, it was.
Not even just that, he said he would retire if he lost to CB.
Yeah, true. He did say that also. So, you know what? Miller basically he had to save face, so I guess he just gave up in the end. I was just whatever. Now this next fight, the biggest upset on this card, I believe, in my opinion, Edson Barboza versus Jamie Varner.
Oh yeah, nobody saw that coming.
Yeah, I had Barboza winning. I didn't even have him winning a finish actually. I had him winning a decision because all of his finishes are in the third round. So and Jamie Varner is a tough dude. So I thought that he could outpoint him with the kicks and stuff. But Jamie came in so aggressive in the first round. I mean, he didn't really catch that leg kick. I mean, it connected, it hit, but he just drove through it with his wrestling and took Barboza down and really ground and pounded him there. And I think from that point on, Edson was scared. What do you think?
Well, he was definitely retreating. He was backing up. I even said to my friends right when the fight started, if Barboza starts working leg kicks, he's going to go for a third round. If he doesn't work the leg kicks, he's going to go for a knockout this round. And he was immediately going for the leg kicks, and so I knew he was going to try and drag this fight out, which favored Varner, at least in the first round, because he was the aggressor. He came out looking to put on a show, swinging bombs, and that definitely is what won him the fight. Barboza was looking for a long fight. Varner was looking for a short one, and he'd be off.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I don't know. I mean, he looked fresh even after the dominant takedown, and then towards the end of the fight, he looked fresh. He was still on his toes, but I don't know if he could keep up for all 3 rounds later on. But if he keeps that up, he's going to be someone to deal with in the future.
Varner, he just beat a top 10 guy in the featherweight lightweight.
Yeah.
He beat a top guy in the lightweight division, and that definitely puts him in the rankings. I mean, if he was undefeated, Edson Barboza was 10-0.
Yeah, exactly. That's actually it'll be very interesting to see how Barboza deals with this loss because a lot of people improve, or some people just go on a few losing streaks. So it's actually a good thing for Barboza. He's young, of course he's exciting. So it's not like Dana, is gonna think about cutting him anytime soon. So.
I agree.
All right, and then the last fight on the undercard, Diego Brandao versus Darren Elkins. Who'd you have, MaddDogg?
I had Varner down.
Yes, so did I. There was this one time when I switched to Elkins, and yeah, I switched to Elkins just because I saw a tape on Diego, and it was that Ultimate Fighter finale or whatever, and he got rocked and then got the submission, but I really wasn't comfortable with his chin, so I switched to Elkins, and then when I switched, I actually put a little bit of money on him, so my picks probably weren't the best on this entire card, but money ended up even, so I don't know. What did you think of this fight? I didn't really see any. I mean, the first.
We went exactly as I thought it would, except for the fact that Diego didn't get the finish. I thought that I would get Wallace the Ultimate Fighter. I know a lot about him. He trained in Jackson and Maine. Actually, jiu-jitsu instructor there. He's really good on the ground, which I was very not impressed with. But that's because of what happened. What I figured is that he would get past the first round. I thought that Brandao would knock Elkins out in the first round, almost guaranteed, because I knew he didn't have any cardio. If the fight got past the first
Yeah.
And Randall just burned out. Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And all right, now we're gonna switch over to the main card. So this is the end of part one. Part two is also on our page.